Cutting down trees is routine for lumberjacks. However, when logger Tony Markins cut through one tree, he stumbled upon something incredible that compelled him to keep digging. Soon, he was sifting through the wooden debris as if he were a child unwrapping birthday gifts. But what was he searching for? Before we dive into the story, click the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. For Tony Markins, a 43-year-old lumberjack, his job wasn't the most scintillating nor his ultimate goal, but he was deeply appreciative. The job paid the bills, and he had a fantastic team. It was anything but monotonous. Occasionally, he and his companions would encounter something fascinating in the forest that would catch their attention. Tony couldn't stomach the idea of a routine office job, spending his days in front of a screen. He loved being outdoors, craving the clean air and engaging in hands-on work. Although danger was part of the job, it added to the thrill. Little did he know just how perilous his work could become. On a cool November Wednesday, the day began like any other, but quickly took a unique turn, unlike anything Tony had encountered before. The air was a mix of fresh pine and gasoline from the chainsaws. Despite wearing earmuffs, Tony could still hear the constant buzzing of the machines dominating the forest, eerily similar to a bee colony's drone. Unbeknownst to him, he was moments away from an extraordinary discovery. Sawdust clung to Tony's forehead, slick with perspiration. After a long day, he powered off his chainsaw and decided to take a break and hydrate. That's when he noticed an unusual tree standing in stark contrast to the rest. It was ominous, its dark bark towering above the others. Tony noted another oddity. The tree was dotted with peculiar bulges, blanketed with moss and jutting out from the bark in a strange pattern. In his decade-long career, Tony had never seen anything like this. A glance at the nearby trees revealed no abnormality similar to the one in front of him. Initially, Tony speculated that the odd formations were bark cankers, dead sections of bark occurring on tree branches or the trunk. This affliction is not uncommon among trees. However, it didn't impede his operation. Bark cankers primarily concerned agriculturalists or those at risk of a decayed trunk falling onto their property. The logger decided to delve deeper. Having never witnessed such outgrowths before, Tony realized they couldn't just be bark cankers. He reinstated his equipment and resumed work, feeling that the tree might conceal an intriguing secret. The chainsaw effortlessly sliced through the bulky trunk, smoother than he anticipated. Soon enough, he was hollering timber at the top of his lungs. As gravity took hold, the tree let out a shrill cracking sound. The ground reverberated as the tree thudded onto the forest floor. This was arguably the riskiest cut he had ever made. The earth-shaking thud seemed to echo throughout the forest, stopping even his crew in their tracks to survey the situation. Once Tony regained his balance, he directed his gaze to the freshly severed tree stump. Within moments, he realized this tree was far from ordinary. Something was amiss. The trunk's center bore a hefty crevice flanked by a protective layer that the tree had fashioned. He was relieved to see the tree rings still visible, aiding his estimation of its age, at least 3 to 3.5 decades old. Just as Tony prepared to dismiss the find and move on, a glittering anomaly in the trunk's crevice caught his eye. Squinting, he spotted a silver object nestled within the trunk. His heart began to race, a rush of exhilaration and apprehension surfacing. Scarcely able to believe what was happening, he reached for his pocket knife and pried the gleaming artifact from its wooden confines. It was a lump of metal, narrowly missed by Tony's chainsaw by mere inches. Upon releasing the object, Tony felt an urgent need to uncover what it was. He examined it in the daylight before summoning his crew over to take a closer look. His teammates slowly gathered around him. Before they reached him, though, Tony sensed there was far more hidden within the tree. Impatient to excavate more items, he pulled out his knife again. Extracting another 3 metal masses, Tony held them up, scrutinizing them in the sunlight. However, he remained clueless about the nature of these metallic masses. "Anyone know what these are?" he asked his lumberjack colleagues, excitement edging his voice. Just then, a veteran team member stepped up, chuckling as he examined the mysterious masses. All eyes turned to him, everyone awaiting his revelation. "Someone was bored," he announced with a smile. "Bored? What could that mean?" Tony asked, intrigued. How could decade-old metal relate to boredom? Some guys come out here hunting, and when they don't snag anything, they entertain themselves by shooting trees. The elderly man explained, toying with his beard. The whole team broke into grins, just like the senior member. Tony had discovered old rifle rounds. Even though it wasn't the treasure he had hoped for, the tree still held more secrets. Determined, Tony refused to give up just yet. Despite trying not to raise his expectations, the earlier discovery left him with a pang of disappointment. Yet, he was even more resolved to ensure that the old bullets weren't the only things the tree concealed. Keen on exploring further, Tony grabbed the chainsaw and resumed his investigation. Crucially, he did just that. He was about to stumble upon the genuine treasure. Tony carved the tree, stripping away layers one by one. In total, he discovered 8 rounds lodged deep within. Someone had indeed been incredibly bored, or perhaps very frustrated. When Tony finally reached the hidden layers of the old tree stump, he came face to face with an artifact that had been concealed for over 30 years, yearning to be found. The stump was almost flush with the ground. As he explored, Tony collected a stash of bullets, unwelcome visitors in the forest, irrelevant of their worth. He was intent on removing them to conserve the forest in its pure natural state. However, his earlier discovery redirected his thoughts. As he prepared to detach the remaining stump, he spotted something wedged in a corner, gleaming in the sunlight, more metal. Initially, Tony assumed it was just another bullet. He thrust aside the foliage and reached for the metallic item, entrenched in dirt. When he felt it, it seemed substantially larger than the bullets he had found before. It was not a bullet, after all. Assuming it was another bullet, he cleared the dirt off the metal. Lacking a clean cloth, he resorted to using the hem of his shirt. When he recognized the intricate carvings on the metallic object, he was in awe. What could such a fascinating item be doing in a forest? Its value had to be more than that of the old bullets. From the metal casing, Tony understood it was no ordinary find. It had to be of some worth. The reticule within the object was in perfect working order, unaffected by the passage of time, suitable for either survival or hunting gear. Can you guess what Tony discovered? If you're thinking a compass, you're spot on, but it was no ordinary compass. It was one of the best crafted compasses Tony had ever seen. It was unbelievable that such a piece had been embedded in the roots of the tree. Likely, a hunter had mislaid it during an event, and over the years, it must have been enveloped by the elements against the tree. Tony couldn't help but grin, imagining the age and worth of the compass. By examining it, he could tell it was ancient, though the exact age was unknown to him. He scoured the compass for a name or date, but found none. Striving to maintain quiet, He slipped the compass into his jacket pocket as his team continued their tasks. The thought of it didn't leave his mind, and upon returning home from work, he planned to bring it to an antiquity specialist. As the expert scrutinized the compass through a magnifying glass, Tony waited with bated breath. Every so often, the expert jotted something down in his logbook. Finally, upon finishing his examination, he raised his gaze to Tony and smiled. He revealed that the compass dated back over a century, estimating its worth at around $200 due to its uniqueness. Tony was taken aback by his fortunate discovery. He opted to hold on to the piece, keeping it as a token of that exceptional day. What began as a common work day transformed into an extraordinary adventure. Tony's steadfastness led him to stumble upon a treasured artifact, all because he dared to explore the unknown. We are rooting for Tony to discover even more valuable pieces in the days to come. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe to The Unusual, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think Tony will discover next?